It's a pleasure to be with you all and to be joined by my colleagues Ram and Venu today. So, really excited to kick this off. Maybe allow me to introduce myself real quick. My name is Michael Watson. As Cindy mentioned, I lead our customer advocacy group. I've been with Eightfold for getting close to 3 years now. And prior to joining these folks, I was a customer of theirs. So the first 20 some years, I don't want to go back too far, but my previous professional life is I was a recruiter. I started with Aerotech right out of school, worked in the contingent space for close to 10 years before I moved over to corporate America and helped run several different organizations, talent teams there as well, Polycom, Workday, Western Digital. So I've seen a lot. I've been through several different downturns in the economies. I've been through several booms in the economies. And once I found the Eightfold solution, it really helped me turn things around. I shaved 11 days off my days to fill, and I increased diversity hiring across the board. So I'm really excited to be here today and to help facilitate this conversation, answer any questions we might have. This is what I do for a living, and I love talking to fellow colleagues. So let me do this. Let me hand this over to Ram to introduce himself. Ram, take it away.
Thank you, Michael. Really glad to be here, especially in this important topic. My name is Ram Subramanian. I'm based out of Chicago. I led the human capital practice. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Thank you for having me here.
And
Hello,
Benny,
hi.
yeah, let's
I'm
introduce.
excited to be here today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I'm based out of India. I come with an industry experience of around well over 27 years. I've been into software development, then sales, delivery management, business operations, strategy, and now resource management. And I'm also a digital evangelist and change management expert, proficient in growth and transformation. Currently, I am the resource management head globally for enterprise growth group of TCS. In this role, I'm responsible for strategic workforce management planning, staffing, and fulfillment by right prioritization and utilization. Also enabling revenue realization, cost optimization in collaboration with business.
Thank you,
Over
Venu.
to you, Matt.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So I'll get this kicked off. I would love to maybe just kind of give a brief statement on what we're seeing in the market right now and some of the conditions. So every day we log into the news and we see what's going on, right? The last few days we've seen a lot of volatility in the stock market. We're also seeing that take place in talent markets, right? I think we're all familiar with Netflix, and they laid off a number of their recruiters. And what we're seeing, it's kind of a weird time, right? We've emerged from the pandemic where everyone was really chomping at the bit to hire these people back that they had to let go. And now we're faced with these difficult market conditions, which are causing companies to pause on that. And in many cases, we are starting to see companies starting to lay off people. So, to the point of this topic of this webinar is like, how do we deal with these different market conditions? Like, how do we use different platforms and different tools and AI to help us navigate our way through these troubled waters? Because I think at the end of it, the people that have the strategy and the organizations that have the plans to address this are the ones that are going to be the ones that emerge successful, right? And time and time again, I'm reminded when I continue to look back at old Fortune 500 lists of companies that were there but didn't innovate and fall off very quickly, right? I think of Kodak and the digital photo revolution. I think of BlackBerry and the phones. We continue to see this evolution, right? And one of the things that helps us get through this is our ability to upskill and understand what our current talent markets are and understand the skills of those folks. So I think that kind of paints the picture on where we're at today. There's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of not knowing where this is going to go. So, let me do this. Let me ask the first question to Ram. And Ram, how would you explain how organizations are approaching talent strategies and talent management? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Michael. The approach has definitely changed quite a bit because of the conditions. I want to kind of bring us to the various conditions our customers are facing today. The business models are changing. quite fast, especially pandemic advanced quite a bit of change in the advancement of how organizations work with their customers and partners and the ecosystem, and how they set up their entire organization around their own people. So this has changed. That's the conditions have changed in that space. And the a lot of the businesses that are out there, some of them are still having a lot of growth in this space, and what we are observing. And then what has become pretty hard for them is to attract and retain talent, even for an organization that's not actually in the high growth right now. They're having challenges from a retaining perspective. And so the organization trying out multiple things right now in the talent acquisition space. They are trying to figure out how they get get to the high quality talent pool that suits their organization in the way that they want to acquire their talent. And then they want to figure out that how much of a matching they can do ahead of time, so that it's a great experience for the candidate and also for them to bring them to the best job they are looking for. And it's all happening in real time because of the speed in which how it's all happening. And skills are changing across the board. I talked about the business model change. Business model change cannot really happen without the elevation of the people adapting to those, and then end of the day change in people, and then how they elevate themselves to the adjacent technology, adjacent skill sets or other skill sets is ultimately how our organization changes today. So that's also changing quite a bit on the skill side. And this basically kind of put a twist on the traditional talent management processes that are there in every organization. They want that to be highly insight driven, and they want that to be as speed as possible. Speed is the key here. And they would like to be able to scale not just from numbers perspective, also scale from various ways they do across the world, how they do the business today. And they would like to couple all of that with upskilling, reskilling of their their employees, so that they can increase the retention. So all of this kind of create a condition that basically basically put every company really looking at how they can reevaluate the talent strategies that are in place today to meet all of these challenges I just described. And then definitely pandemic put a lot of twist in this entire approach, and they are retweaking them to ensure that all their talent management processes are it work well with the conditions with their candidates or their employees. So that's what we are observing, and then everyone is kind of tweaking and changing their talent strategies. Like it's almost no one is alone. Everyone is doing that today. Thanks for the question. That's a pretty important question right now, especially the conditions that at least we are observing what our customers are going through today.
Yeah. Yeah, Ram, I would definitely agree. I think, one of the ways that I'm seeing some of our customers do this, right? And I'm thinking back to a major medical equipment manufacturer that's a customer of ours, right? And this was pre-pandemic, but we're also seeing this happen now in this market as well. They came to us and they said, "Hey, we're looking at riffing a certain percentage of our workforce, but we don't understand the skills they have, right? And meanwhile, while we're trying to riff these folks, we're also trying to hire these 1,500 people. We still have 1,500 open jobs because their skills and the market is moving in a different direction." So they said, "How can you help us with this?" And one of the things we did was we stood up what we call our personalized career site internally for these folks. And they asked those folks that they were potentially riffing to go in there and see what they matched to. And this gave them a sense and almost like a skills inventory of the skills they had. And they went from having to riff 20% of their workforce to having to riff 9%. They were able to reallocate 11% of those folks into these new jobs now that they knew what skills and I think it's such a key, right? I've been a recruiter long enough to be through a few downturns where we had to lay people off. And I was on the recruiting side of that, where all of a sudden I'm having to rehire someone 6 months later that we had laid off, and I'm having to give them a 20% increase. I'm having to give them more in stock incentives because we didn't know the skills they had before they left the organization. So, by leveraging a platform like Eightfold that helps you understand the skills you have, where you need to go from a skills perspective, it just really helps paint that picture for you so you're not operating in a vacuum or operating with a blindfold on it. And I think that's one of the keys. I also look at another major customer of ours, that this you keep on hearing about this gig economy, right? Where these organizations want to offer up these opportunities, these gig opportunities to their internal folks. But once again, how do I know who has the skills to do this? Do I need to go to an outside consultant? So, by leveraging something like a product like our projects, we could stand up these gig projects, allow for your internal employees to apply to them, and we can lay out, hey, this is 3 hours of work a week, 10 hours of work a week, next 6 weeks. We're able to provide that opportunity for folks. And is because of that, the giant resignation, the great resignation is a little bit less, right? Because they're not getting those folks coming to them. Eve, right? I don't see any opportunity here for me. I don't see a future here for me. And what we're seeing now is like, hey, I do see a future here for me. I'm gonna take on this gig. I'm gonna improve my skills here so I can eventually move to a different role. I think it's very, very powerful, and we're seeing that with a number of our customers right now. So,
So Michael, in this case,
yeah.
so in this case, like when you see talent intelligence coming in and helping and all the insights becoming an important one, the 11% is a very powerful story that you talked about with one of the medical supplies customer. But do you see these examples starting to become a corporate strategy right now? How does it become part of their overall business strategies?
I do think it's becoming more kind of table stakes, if you will, for a lot of these organizations, right? They realize that their greatest asset is their people. But for years, we've just had no insights into the skills that those folks bring to the table, Ram. So I think when you look at some of the fast-moving progressive companies that understand this and have leaned in early, they're doing a really great job on this. I think where some customers, and maybe not customers, but where some organizations are maybe struggling with this, is because they
Mm-hmm.
don't have that inventory of their skills and their talent. So they're making these moves blindly without understanding where they need to go, right? So yes, we do see this becoming more kind of operationalized, and a lot of our customers, majority of our customers get it, right? That's why they've signed up for an AI platform that helps with skilling and reskilling, right? They understand the power of that. I think where we're trying to reach out to those organizations that might be struggling with this. How do I do this? You know, this in HR, we're always on a shoestring budget. So, how do you do this and stay within your budget? How do you do this and really be able to hit those KPIs that your organization has set out for you? And to me, AI really is that answer, right? Because it just gives me a lot more visibility into what my organization is capable of doing. That was a great question, Ram. Thank you for that. So let me kick this over to Venu and ask him a question real quick. So what would you say are the main pillars that the talent supply chain need to remember, right? What are some of those keys that as we're going through and we're evaluating platforms, we're trying to figure out the skills that our teams have and they can move to the future with?
Sure.
What are some of
Thanks, Michael.
those main
Yeah, thanks.
points?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. It's a very important topic. See, in my view, organizations must address their talent and skill needs holistically. You gave a right example. The organization was not able to recognize the talent of their employees, and they have to hire for a higher cost and all. So basically, what we talk about is this talent supply chain should meet our business demand if they have to overcome current shortages. And organizations should constantly and consistently identify and review talent needs and evolving technology trends to stay on top of the skills market. Existing talent and skill availability within their business should be collected and benchmarked. This should be a constant exercise. They keep on doing it, probably every 6 months. And then organization should easily redeploy talent where it's most beneficial to the business. And they can do it easily by upskilling and reskilling talent to meet emerging requirements. Framework is needed though to identify and close the skill gaps. If that framework is in place, it's a process through which they can do it. A well-functioning talent supply chain allows companies to place the right people in the right role at the right time. The concept of talent marketplace brings the supply to the demand beautifully, if that is the case. The talent, however, the talent supply chain behavior could be different in unpredictable conditions, but a robust supply chain plan will eliminate the risks to a greater extent. Employers can align employees' career aspirations with business priorities based on the skills. This way, they can take care of the employee aspirations also. Retentions will be better. This creates an agile, resilient workforce that can help organizations succeed in an increasingly unpredictable world. And the key to this is a workforce planning, which is the most important aspect in talent supply chain. It involves developing a workforce blueprint to enable, align, and execute business strategies and people operations. Also, we recommend workforce planning should be both strategic and operational. Strategic workforce plan targets forecasting and a top to bottom approach to support business growth and priorities. Operational workforce plan is bottom up to focus on the intricacies. Basically, it consists of 5 key things, which is a talent demand we have to look at, talent inventory, talent development and deployment, talent acquisition, and supply strategy. Very quickly, what is talent demand? An understanding of talent demand with qualitative and quantitative requirements should be reflected in operational workforce planning. And then we have to look into our own inventory, analyze the skills and potential of the workforce related to business demand and identify the capability gaps. And then talent development is an important aspect, create upskilling and reskilling opportunities and deliver personalized development plan to employees. And once we develop the talent deployment is an important task. We have to match and move the employees into new roles and projects based on their skill and skill adjacencies. Talent acquisition is another major factor where we are going to get a lot of external supply into the company, where we have to identify and hire talent with the right skills and potential while drawing from a broader supply base. And finally, the supply strategy. Develop strategies to close skill gaps from an optimized mix of internal and external channels. The supply strategy can be mobility through talent inventory, developed talent acquisition, or a combination of all. I think that helps with the basic understanding of the talent supply chain model, Michael.
Yeah, Venue, I think you're spot on. I think what you just laid out there could be a game plan for any of our talent partners that are on this call trying to figure out how do we go about doing this, right? Understanding your demand, understanding the skills inventory, right? Creating those internal opportunities for folks for development, right? And then you're going to have some gaps, but now you have it identified for what do we need to go out and have our recruiting teams bring into the house, right? As well, and when you put all those together, that really creates this supply strategy and talent strategy that's going to help you make it through these tough times. So I thought that was great and really insightful. So thank you for that. So Ram, I'm going to kick this question back to you if you don't mind. And the question is this: how is a talent intelligence platform hitting all of these areas in a resilient talent supply chain? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Michael. So the talent supply chain is a very important topic right now. Earlier, the talent supply chain as an idea existed in ways that where it's mostly connecting some of the workflows that existed in an organization that become the supply chain, and now the entire supply chain scope has increased quite a bit. It is just like any other real supply chain, the supply and demand source to target. the same things are applied now in the talent subchain because of the advancement of all the, talent intelligence solutions that are in place. We are able to get there. So the pieces that, that are being worked at almost every customer conversation that we are seeing today is how we make this hugely desperate process that involves processes that are owned by that organization that want to manage this to support their growth and their key business objectives. And also there are many pieces of this the process supply chain part of the process. It lies outside the organization too, and then there are multiple stakeholders which are not really the employees of the company, like your partner organization that you work for talent, and then your candidates, and then the alumni. It's an entire thing, right, from end to end. How do we really manage this? And the resilient supply chain actually involves the tying it all together and then creating a visibility into every party who was involved, part of the entire talent supply chain as a workflow, how each one who are part of it, either as a participant or a stakeholder, have the full visibility into what goes on. That is key. The visibility is also broken into lot more details. I'll highlight on few things that customers are starting to really pay a lot more closer attention to, which is basically the kind of information that you want to make every persona or every person who's part of the workflow available. If it is about demand, everybody is aware of the demand that is needed, and including their partners that they are working at even outside the organization. And then the actual progress that they make in each one of them. If a candidate is involved in the whole process through someone applying for a job, the entire back-end transparency, it's not like apply and then wait for some responses, more of a offline and then broken, like, traditional responses. Now, the talent supply chain, it moved on to a space where creating the entire visibility of what happened, actually, your interaction began with an organization. This is from a candidate perspective. And then similarly, for a hiring manager, since the time they identify the need as they support the growth or the need of their department or the organization, how their requests are completely addressed so that they have a better insight into what goes on, what time is better spent on serving their customers or supporting what their business objectives. So this goes for the recruiter. So everywhere, the key thing that has been established, since the entire workflow got strung together like this, and then the intelligence of each of those interactions have been gathered and shared with everyone who's part of the process. That is a big part of the this entire area. So the visibility and the transparency that you can create. Then comes the mobility part that I think it's there are many ways, whether you are mobilizing this from external or from an internal organization, who will become part of the talent supply chain. The most important part is how the mobilization can happen through individuals, either their ability to, first of all, connecting with the demand in part of the supply chain, and then it could be external candidate or an internal candidate, how they could actually connect with it, translate it to the way that, how, their backgrounds are, their potentials are. So a lot of the around, conversations are going on in this space around potential. So the mobility is basically it's basically happening from supported without any friction. That is the key part. They're removing all the frictions around mobility, whether as a candidate, external candidate, or internal. So that's the second part of the talent intelligence platform, second area that is happening. Once that happens, then the third part, a lot of the conversation going on, still there is a huge amount of human element in this. While insights and intelligence help with the connection, as lot of the you making the entire process a lot more easy for every party who's involved. There is a huge amount of either from a cultural or an alignment perspective that need to happen. So this involves a lot of the human element, either as an interaction of how the culture is feels like. It's a very fuzzy thing, but even in that space, how you bring in either the champions of the organizations or like the hiring manager or the recruiter, whoever it is out there, how they can help bring the process to make more of that connection to that the cultural connection can happen. So this become a big part of the talent separation to make sure that the advancement that has happened through mobilization, through mobility, actually moves to the next stage of they experiencing the cultural part. This has become a next step. And then this is basically how each of these are starting. Then we seen organizations are trying at one department or one type of skill set to establish the value first, and then they approaching from a volume perspective, doing it across the board. So, but the crux of all of this is becoming the talent supply chain through a intelligence platform. It creates a visibility and makes it easy for the mobility, and then help the organization to bring the right type of cultural alignment so that what they can experience that either even an internal candidate moving to a different group can be a completely a cultural change. How that experiences can create, make it more deliberate, and then from that, and then do that at the scale, and that can come through a smart intelligent platform. So that's a kind of phases are the areas that we have observed where successful organization fully come to the highest level of maturity in talent supply chain. But I do have a question on the follow-up in this context, Michael. So, you talked about a few examples of like, how you've seen, some of these key insights and intelligence actually helped it. I talked about the maturity that I've seen and how each of them broken up for an organization. But I'd like to kind of get your thoughts around what excellence look like in this space.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a great question, Ram. Going back to the visibility part, we have some customers that are using our succession planning tool inside the platform, right? Which is giving them that visibility into who's ready, who needs more development, who has the skills that's necessary. So we have quite a few number of customers that are using that, right? When I talked about that example earlier of that medical device manufacturer, that was a $20 million savings to them. And think about this, right? If you can redeploy some of your folks into more meaningful work, the time to onboard them is shorter, right? The time to productivity is faster, right? All of a sudden, you're getting products out the door that you thought you might have to delay a few months because you have people here that know the inside workings. So there's so much goodness that goes along with trying to redeploy some of these folks inside your organization, right? And it all starts with that visibility. When we look at mobility, right, we have several customers. And the beautiful thing about our platform is we have the ability to report out on all of this, right? So, we have several customers of ours that came to us and said, "Hey, my attrition rate is 25%, it's 30%, it's way too high." Right? And we can put these things in place. We can put our project marketplace, and we can enable that. We can enable internal talent management so folks can go in there and understand the skills they have. They can understand what courses they might need to take to get to that next level. When we put all those pieces in place, we're seeing significant reductions in their attrition rates, which once again, right, they can go back and do some value realization on that and equate that to hard dollars back to the organization from losing less people, right? We see this all the time. Every time you lose somebody, it usually costs you 1.5 times their salary. So, you extrapolate that out at scale, it is quite costly to lose your people, especially your best people. No one can survive if your best people are walking out the door, right? So, and not only that, but you understand inside your organization who is that cultural fit, right?
right.
And we say this all the time. We don't, and I'll use us at Eightfold as an example of this. We don't hire for culture fit. We hire for culture addition because we'll be the first ones to admit, like, our culture is always evolving. We're trying to add to it. If you have something great to add, let's add you to this organization. So when I hear culture fit, to me, the first thing that pops in my mind is culture addition, right? We're constantly looking to add to our culture to make it a better and more inclusive place. So, we have redeployment, we have internal mobility, which we're starting to see attrition rates decline, right? And we're also starting to see just better customer satisfaction surveys that our customers are sharing with us, right? Where the customer is coming back to us and saying, hey, prior to Eightfold or prior to a talent intelligence platform, these were our CSAT scores, right? This is what our employees were saying about internal opportunity. And we're seeing a 180-degree turn on many of those surveys where, hey, I do feel like I have a voice. I do feel like there's opportunity for me here. I do like the fact that you've paired me up with mentors. So, I could go down the line, customer to customer to customer, talking about all these great things that they're achieving. But once again, they're able to achieve some of these things because now they have that visibility, where before they didn't have that visibility. So to me, it all comes back to having that visibility into your organization, the skills. And one thing I think is important as we all go through this together, right? None of us are immune to this economy.
Okay.
We're all going to go through this together. Your ability to skill and upskill your employees are what's going to get you through this, right? When times are good and you don't want your best employees to walk out the door, it's all about skilling and upskilling. And when times are tough, once again, it's always about skilling and upskilling, understanding those skills you have. So, I think some people that are trying to figure this out, some people that might be on this call and they have some real challenges in their organizations right now, the way to get through this is by understanding the skills in your organization and then being able to redeploy those skills, right? We see time to hire, right? I mean, I was a former customer, so I'll talk to this myself. I remember I went to my CHRO and I said, hey, I think that I could shave 10 days off my days to hire. And we were a smaller organization. We were 700 people when I was at a company called Gigamon. But we had to hire 300 people. We had to almost do a 50% increase over our current workforce. So I went to them and I said, hey, by leveraging a talent intelligence platform, I really think I'm going to be able to shave days off my days to hire because I'm going to identify those folks that have applied in the past much faster. So I don't have to rely on a job being posted. I don't have to rely on my teams constantly going out to external job boards. I can
Correct.
I can build on that internal talent pool I have, which I call a warm talent pool, and really get those people to apply. And the other area we're seeing tremendous increases is around DE&I, right? And once again, I lived it. I did it. I increased diversity hiring for Black African Americans, Latin Latinos, women, and veterans in my organization, right? And I did that because once again, I now had visibility into who was in my talent pools. One of the first things I did was I paired up with my HR business partner and I said, hey, who are some of the teams inside this organization that might need a little bit of help? And they said, oh, Mike, this team, this team, this team, this team. Great. So my recruiters then went to those teams and said, hey, guess what? First 20 people we reach out to today are going to be well qualified female candidates. Or maybe the top 20 folks that we reach out to are going to be people of color, right? But it was that intentional moving of the needle that got it to work. And we have other customers that say, hey, we want to mask everything. We want to try and remove as much bias as we can. So, whether it's DE&I, whether it's time to fill, whether it's succession planning, whether it's skilling or reskilling, this talent intelligence platform is finally giving our customers and organizations the intelligence they need to make these tough decisions. And I think that's the thing. Look, there's a reason this is lacking of hair up here, right? This was from not having intelligence for all those years and having to make decisions with no intelligence, right? And now that I have it, I sit there and think all the time, oh gosh, I wish I would have had this 20 years ago. The decisions I could have made that impacted people's lives and seeing great people walk out the door, we really could have put a dent in all of that. So that I think to me that's the really exciting thing. And if there's anyone out there, we have numerous case studies on our website. You can go and check those out for specifics there. But I think some of those are some of the key terms. So Venu, I don't want you to feel left out here, so I'm going to kick one your way if you don't mind. So,
Sure.
based on your extensive experience in this field, what are a few of the insights that you have that you'd like to share with our viewers, over and above kind of systems and processes?
Certainly, Michael. And it's a great case study you told about the contextual knowledge. That is something very important in any organization. The people who we leave sometimes they know the context, and when you hire new people, again it's a relearning. Okay, coming back to this, Ram mentioned four important aspects of resilient talent supply chain, which is visibility, mobility, cultural alignment, and enterprise scale. In fact, visibility comes through a very good forecast model for talent based on IT priorities. So what we can do is, an organization can get this forecast from their customers end actually. Based on the demand the customers are putting it in their way, they can, once they do an analysis, they come to know very clearly what is the demand that's going to look like for next year, in the down the line 6 months, or even further. So that will be a good forecast model that really helps an organization. And then talking about mobility, first of all, for mobility, we need to have an inventory model, talent inventory in the company. Once we build the talent inventory and understand, what do we have in hand at that point of time, and then based on the order book value or the orders or the demand that they are getting, they can have a strategy to deploy. That also gives a strategy how to upskill or cross skill the associates and use them in future. And then one of the important things is not every employee will have all the skills needed, and skills are continuously evolving, technology is continuously evolving, but always we can find out what is the relevant adjacent skills for even the niche skills or key technologies. Always we can pick potential employees for upskilling and cross skilling. That gives very good results, and the loyalty increases and the contextual knowledge remains within the organization. That is something really good. That also gives the mobility to the existing employees. And cultural alignment is not a big problem because we are retaining a big chunk. And second thing is, when we are hiring, we can also have more culturally aligned people uh, based on various initiatives, on processes that are set up in the company. And enterprise scale, that is also a very important thing. If you are able to have a strong proactive sourcing strategy clubbed with the forecast what we have, we can really scale up into big numbers, hundreds of thousands also, sometimes not a big deal. And like Michael, you talked about diversity, so I think that also can be inculcated into this sourcing strategy. So according to the countries and according to the priorities of the organization, what is their corporate social responsibility, according to that they can have the sourcing strategy. And initial induction that can also bring in some kind of cultural addition, as you rightly said. And finally, plan for deployment of the talent in the niche skill sets or alternate skill sets from the inventory, from the market. So if you can do this, just the five simple things: forecast model, very strong need that is needed there. Then we have to understand our inventory level in the company, and also define what is the inventory level we want to maintain. You can also take some big bets, and you can increase your inventory levels. You can start training and all, and definitely it will reap rewards. And then you have to identify the adjacent skills and start redeploying people with upskilling. And then number four, proactive sourcing strategy. Don't be the laggard in the market. If you understand, if you know what we need, we can be first to hit the market for proactive sourcing. And finally, the deployment of all these associates or all the employees, what we get, new people, everybody, how we are going to do it. I think just these five simple things, I think we can be able to achieve this.
That's
Over
great.
to you, Mike.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm conscious of the clock. I definitely want to make sure we save some time here at the end for some Q&A. So why don't I do this? Why don't I hand this off to, we'll go Ram and then back to you, Venu, for some closing thoughts, and then I'll share some thoughts of mine there at the end, and then we'll hand this back over to Cindy for some Q&A. So Ram, why don't you take it away with some of your closing thoughts?
Thank you, Michael and Menu. Great insights. I love those examples. When I really like the way that you articulated the strategy, how someone can adapt to achieve excellence in this space. Very useful real life examples. Thank you for that. But this conversation continues and it evolves as well. And building a resilient talent supply chain is an important topic. We're going to continue to talk about this with Eightfold. And there is a big HR event coming up, and many of you tuning in today, I'm sure, plan to attend there, the HR Tech event in Las Vegas, between September 13th and 16th. And we have a lot of these thoughts around this, the case studies and the insights that we gathered. We have a big, launch of research and white paper on this topic that anyone can consume. And we have a theater session set up on September the 15th, Thursday, in Eightfold booth, and which we are launching to everybody with a lot of the thoughts what you heard, and more than that, the real customer stories and the insights that each one adopted to achieve excellence. Looking forward to see you there. Again, thanks again for the opportunity to be here and talking to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ram. And in my view, this is one of the most important topic that is coming into the talent supply chain. And some of the companies or organizations across the world have further extended their talent supply chain much deep into the source, and they start shaping up what is the kind of skills and talent that is going to come even before people are joining the organization. That is another latest trend that is coming in. Overall, it's a fantastic topic and very good examples covered by Michael and Ram. We are open to questions. Michael, back to you.
Yeah, thank you both. It's been very insightful. The one thing I want to share with everyone here is you're not alone, right? We have a lot of great folks on this call. I know, speaking for Ram and Venu, we're all open to sending us questions outside of this venue as well. Hey, how do you do this? But know this, you're not going through this alone. There's plenty of us that have been through this time and time again. We know how to navigate through these waters. So if you're feeling any type of nervousness or ambiguity on how do you go about doing this, how do you set that up, there's lots of thought leadership in this call today. So please feel free to network with folks, reach out to folks. Hey, what did you mean by this? What are some of the case studies you can share? Right? We're all here to help each other, right? I think that's how we're going to get through this together, right? We're going to get to my point, together is how we're going to do it. So a big thank you for everyone attending today. I think as a big thank you for you, we're going to share a white paper that we're going to be releasing here in a few weeks. We're going to share it with you early. And it's around optimizing your talent supply chain using talent intelligence to close the skill gap and strengthen your business. And this is prior to its release. So we'll be sending that out here, that link in the next few days. So be on the lookout for that. Would love your feedback. Feel free to ping any of us after giving that a read, and feedback is a gift. So we would love to get that. And I think now is the perfect time for us to bring Cindy back in and hand this over to Q&A.
Yeah, and gosh, I know, can you all hear me okay?
Sure can, Cindy.
Good, great. Well, hey, I was going to say, a white paper in exchange for a deck, I think that it's a good trade. It's a good trade that we're getting early eyes on a white paper that's not yet released. So thank you for doing that. Yeah, we do have a couple of questions that have come in. I did want to make Iram made a comment, but also had a question. So I just wanted to share this. The comment was, it's just very hard to find good talent. Sometimes the sourcing strategies are not helpful, and we do have to be creative with talent acquisition. So I appreciate the innovation as it goes along with all of what you all were saying. But let me get to Iram's question here. Let me just slide down here. The question was, can you please share any best practices you might have for sourcing strategies, and what is the best source to get forecasting? Any thoughts on that?
Venu or Ram, you want to take this first? I'm happy to add in.
Yeah, I think sourcing, Venu kind of, I think they're trying to expand the scope of talent supply chain as much as possible to give a lot more predictability around this, right? This is the challenge has been the predictability, how we can be a lot more more assured about the businesses that we are in, talent being a critical, success factor, any business that we are in. So, Venu touched briefly on this. They're trying to go further down where the talent supply chain actually begins. Like, many organizations now trying to shape it even before the actual who could be the potential candidate, like, working through universities and creating dedicated programs that actually can be there before even a student start to think about a potential opportunity with your organization. Imagine what that interests them and what could be the ideal scenario when you have a newcomer coming from outside the organization. How do you try to do so? They're trying to expand the reach of the talent supply chain where it begins. That's one of the great. And then also not just in the beginning, even the end. So there are more and more programs that actually started with the alumni network. There's one of the customer that I'm closely working with. They had created a very special alumni network that actually focused on working with the people who left the organization in the past, and then creating a very, very unique, engagement with them that created amazing way that how they fulfill their positions. And they were being, in fact, they were the most successful hires they had in the way that how they brought back on. I think to Venu's point, this talent supply chain is expanding and in both the hands, both the head and the tail. And then also the insights that I want to gather, right, in each one of them. They're coming up with new things. The intelligence is a key. The more and more information that you can gather, and you can be a lot more predictable as a business. That's what I see. This is the key thing when it comes to how to be successful. I think the question to Cindy, this is the way you can be successful. Be successful is the predictability is the key right now. That is a very big finding challenge. How do you increase the predictability? And these are the ways that I've seen our customer organizations and tried and been much more successful than others. Cindy.
Yeah, that's great. Did anybody else want to hop in on that one, or?
Yeah, a quick point. Sorry, Michael.
No,
a quick point is visibility also helps. Many times, what happens is even if you are, going to the source of the talent supply, or even recruiters, if we have the full visibility, and we can also shape up what kind of talent we are going to get through the recruiters also. They also have that visibility. So all of us collaborate in the supply chain. So which means, we will never be disappointed.
Yeah,
Over
that's
to you, Mike.
and the last thing I would add to this is the number one reason I implemented Eightfold when I was back in my recruiting days was for talent rediscovery. Right? For the last 20 years, we've all been collecting resumes. And this is not a knock on ATS systems. I've used them all. Right? Workday, iCIMS, JobVite. I can continue to go down. None of those systems were made to resurface old talent that applied. So in my case, right, I had 75,000 people in my talent pool, and I was trying to hire 300 people.
Yeah.
Right. And when I looked at the stats, I only interviewed 3% of those folks. So I always went back to thinking, like, what about that person that we rejected 3 years ago because they needed one more year of experience? Now they have it. Like, to me, I wanted to tap into those folks and find out what they were doing because they knew who I was. They applied, they showed interest in me. That was a much easier conversation for me to have as a recruiter than having to go to someone who didn't know me from, as my mom would say, Adam's goat, where I had to talk about my organization, tell them what we do, sell them on opportunities, right? So being able to tap into those folks that have applied in the past, right? Your existing talent pools, I think is really, and we're seeing this in our stats. We're seeing where a large number of our customers are really 30, 40, 50% of their hires right now are coming out of their existing talent pools.
Wow. Yeah, some great information there. I really resonate with what you all are sharing. And, I think it's such a huge topic for us. Even at HCI, for any of our listeners, if you've taken strategic workforce planning course, we talk about all of this, right? We talk about some of those roles that maybe are no longer needed for the business strategy to get where it's going. And so how do we redeploy, which all of you are talking about, that deployment piece that we're probably maybe dropping the ball a little bit on by missing out on some of that skill. So brings me to Stephanie's question, if you all are ready for another one. Great question here on the topic is, can you share your best practices regarding upskilling? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. If I can go with this, Michael, my quick 2 cents. So what we do normally in the organizations, we look at the adjacent skill sets and what the people have potential for and the context in which they are working on. For example, which industry they are working on. And looking at these things, we put them into a plan of upskilling themselves and then getting certifications in sometimes that is needed. And it's like a proper design by which it is done, and it really gives rewards because they are in the systems, and if the systems gets upgraded, the people also get upgraded in the skill sets, or sometimes new systems are implemented at the customer place, and these people will start working with the other tacit knowledge they have on the processes and contextual knowledge and other things. Just the technology upskillment hardly takes a quick hands-on for some time, and then they are on the mark. Along with them, we also pair in some really good skilled technology gurus for some time, and the entire team, as it is over a period of time, scales up very nicely. That kind of upskilling we do quite often, actually.
The one point that I would like to add in this is, when it comes to upskilling, it's a lot of times that strategic workforce planning come up with the most artist skills that are in gap today, and then comes from top down. And the most successful organization that I've seen where there is a huge amount of the upskilling program participation and success is where they actually connected with the individual associates or the employee journey, how that connects with them. So this way, that when it comes to upskilling, again, it all goes back to intelligence and insights. What are those journeys that every one of those organizations, the workforce actually, thinking about, and then how that maps to the, the strategic workforce planning gaps or the upskilling requirement that comes in. How do you map it? And this way you have a higher participation, higher interest, and higher success in your upskilling programs. That would be, one thing that I would add to Venu's point.
Yeah, Ram, it's a great point. Venu, right? Great points all around. When I think about this, I think, right, there's kind of three main drivers to this. We have to understand the skills you bring to the table. When I say you, is your workforce. So, right, in Eightfold, in our talent management platform, I can come in, I can build out my profile, I can add the skills I have, and the AI can help validate that. Right. The second piece of that is we also understand the skills that are needed in some of these future jobs. So we can go in and work to map out some of those skills that we're going to need. And then the nice part about what we do is if there's any type of gap there, that's when we integrate with your learning and management system. And we're going to say, okay, you have these skills, you're looking to move into a role like this, there's a skills gap of X, and here's some courses that you can take to help bridge that skills gap. And this is what I refer to all the time as meaningful engagement, right? This is much different than me logging into an internal intranet site that's just got a static listing of jobs. Our platform is going to understand the skills you bring to the table. It's going to understand those skills that you might not have, and then recommend those courses in your LMS system to help bridge that gap. And not only that, but then also match you up with mentors that have some of the skills that you're looking for. So when I think about reskilling, right, it's three buckets. It's understanding the skills that your workforce brings to the table. It's understanding the skills that you're going to need to kind of transition into the future. And then it's also bridging that gap with your LMS systems, with your mentorship systems, with your projects, offering, some of the best experience is real-time experience. So if all of a sudden I can help upskill you by giving you a gig opportunity where you can work with other people, work with mentors, get some hands-on experience, and then all of a sudden we feed that back into your profile and then start recommending jobs for you based on that skills you just gained. That's where we're getting a lot of positive feedback from our customers around the upskilling. I hope that helps answer.
Yeah, that's great. And I appreciate the three-pronged approach as you thought through it. And I do have, this is a little bit of my passion, so I'm going to hop in here and ask a quick question. But I know a lot of what we're doing requires, well, this is my question for you. I think it does require a process within organizations to be able to collect the data, right? To be able to show predictability. That term has been used. How fluid or how intact do you think an organization's process with that to be able to collect that data, whether qualitative and quantitative, needs to be before launching into what you all are talking about? Is it a situation where you can fly the plane and build it at the same time? Or do you think there's a portion of some of this process that needs to be intact before moving in the direction you all are talking about?
Yeah, I'll let my colleagues.
Yeah. Kenny, you want to go first? Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very interesting one which you said. In this skilling, right? You can fly while you can also build. For example, you need some basics to start, and this is only one area where learning never stops. You can say for anybody in the world, in any industry, people can keep on skilling and better skilling and excellence. They can keep on doing it. So yes, it is possible. While building, you can fly the plane also here.
Okay. Yeah. I know. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing I would add to that
the
is
definitions also change a little bit, because skilling usually not the traditional one. You have to take some time off and then on a session and an in-person or a course or the idea, the definition of learning and skilling is also changed quite a bit. And then we need to start to redefine it so that we make it easy and inclusive for everybody, everyone, because it's all individually. End of the day, it's about learner behavior, how you can support that in a very diversified organization. And for a organization which is very dynamic in nature, retail industries, for example, they resort to micro learning, and it's still a skilling approach. They do it in a very small chunks in time, and then how they take them to a path. But for a highly compliance-driven organization, it's a very mandatory, and you take a time and you get certified or compliant with the certain one. So, but there is everything in between. So I think this idea of skilling and how it applies to the overall the learning process is something that need to be very carefully thought through, and then it has to be very diversified. Just like the organization diversified, their learning habits are very diversified as well. And that's when you can find a lot of success these days.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add, I know we're at time, so I'll make this quick. Right, I think you all have more information than you realize. Right, we've all been collecting for years and years and years. Right, so now what's been missing is some type of talent intelligence platform that help you make sense of all that. Right, and that's why when we stand up a customer, we're ingesting all of your HRIS information, we're ingesting all of your ATS information. We understand what good looks like in your organizations, and then we compare that to the global data set and understand what good looks like in other organizations, and that's when we get to these very high levels of predictability and who can do what and who can learn things very, very quickly.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you all. Those were great comments, and thank you all for answering the questions that were put out there by the participants. We always appreciate it, and we look forward to the white paper, you all. So thank you, Michael, Ram, and Venu. We're so delighted to have you on with us today, and we're going to go ahead and close up. Yeah, of course. Just a reminder to HCI members, today's webcast has been approved for HRCI and SHRM credit, as well as for HCI recertification. Your credits for attending this webcast will soon show up in your My HCI profile under the transcript tab. While you're there, don't forget to check out hci.org for even more insights, as well as information on our certifications, virtual conferences, premium memberships, and more. I'd like to say one more thank you so much to Michael, Ram, and Venue for being with us today. And of course, to the good people at Eightfold for your support of this webcast. And we couldn't make this happen without all of our webcast viewers. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us. We'll see you all next time. Take care, everyone.